All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to the Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here with my guy, Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Trevor Twidwell, here in the KC Beard Co. studios, ready to get off on this episode 10, man. This is a very exciting night for multiple reasons, but the biggest reason is, and we're going to get right into it, on the Modern Man Supply Company guest seat, we have my guy, Arrowhead Pride's film and draft analyst, lead film and draft analyst, Kent Swanson, here with us. Let's give my guy a hand real quick. We got Kent Swanson in the house tonight. Now, the reason why, and before I introduce him, I just want to say that we greatly appreciate not only you being here tonight, man, but the hard work that you and Craig and Matt Lane and all you guys over at Arrowhead Pride have put in, because I'm telling you, man, growing up as a Chiefs fan, we did not have this kind of content, and I know you can attest to this, but now having this kind of, and it's obviously the excitement of having Patty in town, and you know, the emergence of something we've never seen before. Obviously, that takes shape. But content, just having content periods for me to get through my off season is everything as a fan, dude. So I really want to thank you for taking the time. You hooked us up with the draft guide, dude. I cannot thank you enough.
Man, thank you, appreciate
I've been studying that thing like crazy. I mean, there's a lot to it, but I'm telling you, man, you guys did a great job. You deserved a lot of credit for that one, man.
It's like the scene from Pulp Fiction when they opened up the mystery box. The light just hits it. I was like,
are we happy?
I was like,
Are we happy?
Are we happy? Yeah, I was happy. So yeah, that's how I felt when I opened it.
I appreciate that, guys. I really do. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and I mean, it was a lot of work. We spent a lot of hours. We've been doing this since like November-ish, October-ish. Like that's really the whole process. So you guys saying that, and the response has been ridiculous.
I mean,
so
no lie, was it 2 days ago when he sent us the draft? I knew nothing about the draft.
He was like Jon Snow, bro.
Exactly.
He knew nothing.
I'll watch the draft. Like
now you know everything.
I'll watch the draft like the day of the draft, but I don't know who's getting drafted or whatnot. If I hear a name throughout like the off season, I'll maybe pay attention to that just name.
I love it, man.
But I started reading that guide. Is like, holy shit, you know, like, am I getting smarter or what?
The answer is no.
The answer is no. They got smarter, and they're just relaying the information to us dumb shits.
Reading is the secret.
So this is great. This is great. Thank you for joining us, dumb shits, Ken. I told you this. I said this is what's going to happen. So obviously, with the draft guide aside for a second, I've seen you guys kind of, you know, bounce back and forth as far as who you want the Chiefs to go into in particular, not just position, but player.
Yeah.
I'll get out and say it. After listening to you guys, taking very seriously what you guys consider to be the guy or the position that the Chiefs need to go after. I've been a big fan of Clelin Ferrell. I really would like them to take the kid out of Clemson. I think he's got the intangibles and all the cliche stuff, but I definitely think he's the kind of guy that the Chiefs could very much use in this next coming year, not for just 2020, 2021, but 2019 in particular. I think he could be the guy that can come in here and make some impact. But you guys have made some serious cases for other guys at different positions, even, that I've had to listen to, even wide receiver at times. So, and I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. I'll clarify that, and I don't think any of us are. Go ahead.
I'll be real with you. I don't know if we are necessarily. I think I'll be real with you. Clelin Ferrell, that's my guy.
All right.
I'm 100% with you on that. Just a spoiler. I don't even care. Spoiler alert. The last article I post for Arrowhead Pride before the draft start it's a video and an article talking about I think the Chiefs should trade up for Clelin Ferrell.
There we go.
That's the guy.
I'm with it, man.
If you were going to give me one guy today that's realistic, I would say Clelin Ferrell.
An impact player right away.
Right. Yeah. And I think he's one of the 10 best players in this class. Yeah. He's, one of the things that's kind of keeping him from or putting him in striking distance, honestly, is the fact that he really didn't get to test much throughout the whole draft process. So the athletic testing and some of the pro day stuff, he really wasn't able to do as much of that. And there's like a lot of concerns, I think, about some of that like athletic ability. God, I'd take him. Yeah. I would trade up for him. I would be aggressive. I'd give up a second round pick to go get him at like that 18 range. I have no problems doing that. But yeah, we've talked about like wide receiver, and I think some of that is trying to give different perspectives, and like the boards fall so differently, especially with the Chiefs down at 29, and we can't just say every time that we're going to trade up for Clelin Ferrell. I don't know if I'd love a wide receiver. But those are some situations we've had to address in the past.
I feel like if we're going to trade up, it's not going to be for an offense.
No.
I don't see that happening because there's so much that's probably going to fall. That's what I was going to ask you too. Like if there was any position in the draft that would fall, what position predominantly do you think would be the class to kind of fall, like as far as position?
Yeah, like, and I think that's the weird part, and I think that's why, like, the Chiefs, I don't feel great about, and we've all of us here have tried to been up and down on how we feel about what's going to be available to them in the draft, but I don't know if something great's really going to fall to them,
right?
And that's where I think there's just a lot of concern about, how aggressive they're going to need to be to go identify and grab someone that's going to make an impact specifically on defense.
Yeah.
There's a million scenarios that could happen at 29. They probably need to, kind of create their own destiny and just move up and hope that the edge position, someone falls down.
Well, it's interesting you say that because, I listened every time you've been on 610 with Bink and the other guys, and that's something you always said that got me really excited is you were of the belief, and actually you were so certain, I don't know if you still are, but because like you said, it's been like a damn roller coaster. But you've said that you are convinced they're not staying at 29.
Right.
And I just need to ask one question and then I'll add another one. Do you still believe they will not be at 29 when that time comes around? And two, how far up do you realistically see them going if they were to inevitably trade up?
I don't think they're picking at 29. I think Brett Veach will get bored. Like, dude, he's so aggressive.
He plays Madden, man. He's
right?
The way he's doing it this offseason just can only tell you one thing, that he's moving up in the draft.
He's a guy, and this has been consistent, not just with his draft stuff, but if you look at how he's approached free agency and every move he's made, when he likes a guy, he does what he can to go grab him. Yeah. Tried to trade for Reggie Ragland back in the day. Tried to trade for Anthony Hitchens, Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas was going to be a Chief
twice.
Yes. He was ready
twice,
right?
Fucking twice.
Prove it deal. He's going to sign a 1 year prove
it just was not meant to be, Kent. Let's just be real here. Breaks his fucking leg. Dude.
Sucks, man.
So like heartbreaker.
I was.
Well, it's a leg breaker. That's what it was.
Can you imagine? Badger and Earl together would have been absurd. But I think that's the point. Is Brett's always been about going and making sure he gets his guys. Yeah. He believes in his people. It's important, man. He believes in himself and his ability to evaluate talent. So I think, same thing. I think he'll be aggressive trading up for a guy that they value. I could see it being Clelin Ferrell.
Okay, so on your guys' draft guide, you did say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you have Clelin Ferrell going 24th to the Raiders. Is that correct?
Yeah, when we did the mock draft layout, this is the thing. Like when we kind of lay all this stuff out, that's where you get a little bit optimistic that in a trade up, a guy like Ferrell could fall.
Sure.
When you're trying to stack all these players up against, and I think that's where there's some optimism. Maybe not at 29, but 24 easy. You can move up. You talk about you asked where I think they should move up to. A second round pick can get them to 18. A third round pick can get them to 21. So those are the two draft picks. If they give one,
that's a significant difference between 18 and 21. If we're being honest,
absolutely,
it really is, because like you said, there is a chance that guys like Clelin Ferrell, who you and I obviously have a major crush on, he could fall, but falling to 18 is considered falling.
Yeah.
So you can't bet that he's going to fall three more spots.
Right.
Right. And so it has to come down, like you said, Brett Veach getting bored, but also, does Brett Veach not only feel like he's the kind of guy that he knows would make immediate impact, but also wants to keep him? Because like I said, I trust your guys' judgment. And according to you, not only would we miss out on Clelin Ferrell, but he'd be going to a rival of ours.
Right.
So that's a double holy shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I definitely can see the Raiders grabbing him or something.
Yeah,
if they're not going to address edge early, if they don't go and grab an edge early, they've got 2 extra picks to do it, and Clelin Ferrell could fall into their laps just based on where teams are prioritizing stuff. Like I think there's going to be a run on offensive linemen, between let's call it 15 and 25 too. I think they're
some good ones in this class.
Right. Sure. So it's just how the board's going to play out. They got to go up and get their guy if they're going to get him. And Clelin Ferrell makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And for me, look, I understand that I've heard all the arguments, literally of every position except like quarterback and punter. Okay.
Yeah.
And because obviously those are just not positions you even entertain the thought of, especially with the position we're in now.
Right.
But quarterback, wide receiver, linebackers, offensive linemen, for me, I try to envision how I would react to each one of those positions in the first round. And I'm like, which one would I be the most mad about? Which one I'd be like, meh. And the other ones I'd be like, oh, yes. You know what I mean? Like I'd be stoked. And to be honest with you, I feel like those positions, and again, I'm not the draft expert here, man, but just from everything I've heard from you guys and from other sources that I trust, those positions are going to have some depth left in the second and third rounds.
Sure.
And with the Chiefs having
Some of them,
multiple,
yeah.
yes, some of them, not all of them, obviously.
Right.
But like cornerback, I heard from you guys, there's going to be some really good cornerbacks in this draft.
Yeah.
And Craig Stout actually did say that there's a chance if a cornerback doesn't go in the first 25 picks this year, it's the first time since 1974.
Right. Something along those lines. And I think that
Yeah.
there's an outside chance that happens. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, cornerbacks come off the board at a premium, but this year's kind of been a weird class where the best tape at the cornerback position outside of Greedy Williams. Greedy Williams is a very good cornerback, but even him, like there's some tackling concerns with him. A lot of the better tape out there has athleticism concerns like Byron Murphy. You probably, if you've listened to our pod, you've heard us talk about Byron a lot.
Oh, yes.
But a lot of these like second round prospects, they're really good athletic testers, really, big, physical, long. So it's kind of like a reverse of, it's a weird class in that regard. I think the sweet spot for cornerback specifically is the second round. Like
Right.
you said, like there's probably 10, 15 guys that kind of fit the mold of like, okay, that would be a good player to have. He fits what Steve Spagnuolo likes. And so like, it's a weird navigation of the board this year. And that's like, I think if they're going to move up, they're going to move up for edge and just hope to address cornerback in the second round. That's what my gut tells me they're going to do.
Well, I hope your gut's right. And I hope it ain't the pizza we just grubbed on, because I'm telling you, man, I this is my personal opinion. And I'm going to stick with it. I think especially with Spagnuolo's style of defense, and then we talked about how he has a type when he wants these physical, pass, guys that they disrupt the pass lanes.
Yeah.
They don't. I'm not worried. We talked about this on our podcast last week. I'm not as concerned about the sack totals as I am opposed to making sure that the quarterback has his job as a living hell while facing the Chiefs.
Affects the quarterback.
Exactly.
Affect the quarterback.
Yes. Knock him around.
Yep.
Yes. Knock him around. Bat the balls down. Like Chris Jones is very good at that. But if you got a couple more guys that can do that on a consistent basis, you're talking about a very dangerous defense.
Yeah.
I'm not worried if they're going to be a top 10 defense, just a dangerous defense.
Right. Becomes a player.
Yes, and I'm going to ask you about that in a second, actually.
Yeah.
But because there's something you guys had mentioned on your draft guide that I wanted to talk about when it comes to Breland Speaks. But my focus is I want the Chiefs to have the best front seven they possibly can. I feel like if they can have a dominant front seven, this team is an absolute Super Bowl favorite. Because this defense consistently got beat up front.
Yeah.
Constantly. And I know they got to the quarterback. That's fine. But Chris Jones had a career year. I would be of the belief that Chris Jones is probably not going to have another 16 sack season in his career because of the defensive change.
Correct.
So
I agree.
So we have to kind of forget about that and not worry about those totals.
Right.
So get a front seven that is going to dominate field of position and make that quarterback work. So I'm glad you agree with me that that's the kind of focus you want to have on this defense, because obviously going cornerback in the first round would be fine.
Right.
But I feel like there's bigger needs on this defense, even after they got Alex Okafor, after they got Emmanuel Ogba. Is it Ogba or Ogba, by the way?
Who cares?
I'm going to go with Ogba. It feels right with Ogba. Okay, I'm going to go with Ogba. So even though they got those guys, I feel like they can still upgrade. Now, coming into Breland Speaks, something you guys have said, your outlook was you believe that this defense in particular fits him so much better. And Veach even admitted that as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because of the fact that you said, I think it was you that said on Twitter that, it was almost like Veach was anticipating the moves that he was going to be making this offseason when it comes to changing the defense, comes to changing the way this defense is going to play. Maybe not just 3-4 to 4-3.
Yeah.
But the fact that I think Veach had a plan further down the line than even just his rookie season with Breland Speaks. So give the people a little bit of an idea of what you're expecting with guys like Breland Speaks, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't really like what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm willing to give him a chance, because I do believe this defense does fit him better, obviously, as a defensive end in a 4-3 scheme.
Yeah.
Give us a little synopsis of what you believe he's going to give us in 2019.
Yeah, so Breland Speaks was like I hated the draft pick when it happened. I thought he was like a day 3 defensive end, maybe even interior defensive lineman when they took him. So I was confused why they were trying to make him play out of a 2-point stance and rush the passer and drop. So he fits so much better in what Steve Spagnuolo is trying to accomplish. He has the length. Yep. He has the desirable length, the size. He gives great effort. Like, one thing you saw with Speaks is he at least tries hard. And that's a good baseline. You want a good motor, guys willing to do that. Spagnuolo likes these kind of guys that fit more the Breland Speaks mold. He's better positioned just schematically to do the things that Steve Spagnuolo wants to do. He has the length. He has the density. Both Veach and Spagnuolo like players that play with power. They like the power game. They're not as interested in the speed game. I mean, obviously they'll take it, but they value that density before anything else.
Wear that offensive line out.
Right.
Yeah.
And power rushers, affecting the quarterback, collapsing the pocket, using power to kind of push and condense that space. That's what
demand double teams too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got 3 guys in there that can demand a double team,
there's problems. You got problems, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So like I from that perspective, Speaks is better positioned to get to play with his hand in the dirt, not have to play as a stand-up, worry about pass and rush or run responsibilities, that kind of stuff. So he's better positioned. We'll see if he's actually, he didn't look particularly slim.
No,
checking in,
to say the least.
He looked like a 3-tech. He looked like an interior defensive lineman. But if Speaks is going to work out, it's going to be in this kind of scheme compared to what we saw last year with him.
Now, obviously, I'm a big Clemson guy because, like I said, I really like to see Clelin Ferrell in the Chiefs uniform, and I think Clemson develops good NFL players, quite frankly. And in particular, a guy that I have a lot of faith in that is a 3rd-round pick from last year's draft, Dorian O'Daniel.
Yes, my guy.
Not just because he uses my beard products that I make, but I'll put that aside. But
Just
that doesn't hurt though, right?
Selfish plug. Yeah. Humble brag here, but he's a great guy, and I think that he's got something to his game. And unfortunately, I just don't think he fit last year.
Right.
And I think he's just too talented not to have a good opportunity this year. So to kind of piggyback off the question I asked about Breland, you also touched about that in the KC draft guide as well. You guys did. And I kind of want to get an idea also what you think about what are you expecting by week 17? What did we see from Dorian O'Daniel this year?
This year, I think Dorian O'Daniel is another guy that's as well positioned to have success in this defense. As a will linebacker, he's going to play as a will linebacker in that 4-3 defense, and he might wind up being your starter. The Chiefs have been talking a lot about Reggie Ragland and Anthony Hitchens being your Mike and Will linebackers, and that just does not make sense because I don't think either of those guys have the coverage ability or athleticism to succeed. That seems like a very old school approach. I think it's just lip service. O'Daniel's fit perfectly as a will linebacker.
Versatile, man.
And he's got some coverage ability. Yeah. He's got great athleticism.
So well.
His 3-cone last year was one of the best in the class. Yeah. So there's a lot to like about his skill set there. I think I've heard some things that kind of indicate he might have been a little bit slow to pick up everything last year. And you could probably tell at times, and I don't think they trusted him, for a large portion of the season. Yeah. I think he's got a year in a defensive, or he's got a year in the league.
Yeah,
he's got a new defensive coordinator that's going to help him be better positioned. Yeah, so yeah. I think he's in a better position than he's ever been. He's another guy. He could thrive with this scheme, and hopefully you get more out of this class because those two guys making an impact. I like Derek Nani for what he is.
Yep.
As a 1.5 down player with the 1st and 2nd down in heavier personnel and stuff, but those two making an impact would be a huge help for Steve Spagnuolo and this team.
Well, I think the key cog too is having elite safety play this year now.
Yeah.
We didn't have that all year last year.
No, it wasn't even that we didn't have elites. We had horrific.
We had some. There was some.
It was bad. It was really bad.
For the most part, I'm saying that changes everything now that we're going to have an elite, centerpiece of that defense now. So having someone that can lead and communicate with guys. I mean, we seen when Eric Berry was coming in, he was chewing dudes' asses left and right. Because everyone's out of position left and right. So it's like now that we're going to have a guy that's going to be the vocal leader in that backfield, that's going to help everybody else so much more. And Chris Jones doesn't have to worry about, them screwing up behind him when he's doing his thing. It's going to be fun to watch, man. I think Tyrann Mathieu is going to change everything.
And to piggyback on that, obviously, is, there's been some big moves this offseason. I think, I've heard a lot of complaining about, I don't think the Chiefs defense is better. For me, changing the scheme alone makes this defense better because I think guys fit better. And we've talked about this on our show several times. Binkley agreed with what we said when he was on a couple weeks ago. I don't know exactly your thoughts on it. I assume what you're going to say and what you think, but for me, the Chiefs got rid of big names, not big time players anymore.
Sure.
Dee Ford had one really good season, and I will give him credit for that. But let's be honest here. He knew he was fighting for his next contract. Now, he did play ball literally and figuratively where he said he would take the franchise tag, and he ultimately did until he got traded. But the point remains, this defense had to make significant changes, and Justin Houston at 30 years old with the injury problems he's had and the cap hit he took up with Eric Berry not playing essentially for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
With D Ford lining up off sides that cost us essentially an AFC championship. And again, with him having 1 great season in 5 years, I don't see how this is any way a negative thing. And I want to get your thoughts on that, because I feel like our fan base and people that talk and touch on the Chiefs a lot are scared because they're losing big names. But if they know this game well enough, they know that losing big names isn't always a bad thing as long as the scheme is effective and efficient. You have the right pieces in place.
Yeah, and I think it's a very nuanced conversation in general, because like if I'm not sure that this defense is as currently constructed, and this is obviously before the draft, I don't know if they are more talented. And you saw the sack production. You saw the ability to disrupt. Everything else about that defense was abysmal. So I think maybe not from a talent perspective, I don't know if they have as much talent as they did last year necessarily, but I am of the belief that with the excellent staff that they've put together, it's not just Spagnuolo, Brendan Daly coming over from the Patriots, and Matt House, who, when we wrote an article about defensive coordinator candidates, we thought Matt House was a defensive coordinator candidate coming from Kentucky, because
he's got an eye for talent too.
He's got an eye for talent. You might see some Kentucky guys get taken,
and
it might happen. But
I don't care.
I think you've got a great staff. I think they've done a good job of bringing in more talent. They've moved on from to your point, big contracts, and they didn't get. Eric Berry played 2 games in the last 2 years and had giant cap hits the last 2 years. They played with one of their hands tied behind their back on defense and financially. So, yeah, I think they're trending in a direction where they're not going to be as talented, but they can very easily be better than they were last year as a unit, with the staff, with the personnel they've brought in. I feel good about where they're at and where they're heading. Plus, Brett Veach will be continually trying to add stuff all the way up to week 1 too. They're in good shape. They'll be in good shape. When you talk to me in September, I think we'll all feel better that this defense will not be the 31st best defense in football.
Scheme matters too, like we talked about before.
Absolutely.
So I think we've obviously made the proper moves to stop the run first. We got all these big, body clogging kind of guys that are going there and stuff the run. Guys that are known about stuffing the run and batting balls down. So us winning up front first before we even really, I think there's so many talented guys, obviously, we can draft corner-wise and safety-wise because it's deep in this draft. But yeah, just scheming to stop the run is the biggest thing, because we kept getting, we'd get a sack on a second down. We'd allow a third and long conversion, or allowing early runs to kill us, kill the momentum of each game. So that's stopping the run first is obviously the goal. So
for me, just cutting the dead weight of Bob Sutton, Eric Berry, Justin Houston. No offense. I love Justin Houston. I'm a big fan.
Right.
But it needed to happen in D Ford. I did not have faith that he was going to have a long-term successful career. And I think the Niners kind of bit too much, more than they probably should have.
Yeah. I mean, the Chiefs did good to get what they got for D.
Right. Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. I think that as long as the defense is just progressing, I'm not expecting them to be top 10. I don't think that's realistic. And I don't think that's fair to Spagnuolo and Matt House and these other guys that are trying to put hard work into
And they don't need that.
They don't need that.
Just hold teams to 25 points.
The 20th best defense in football next year, they're probably in the Super Bowl.
Because look, the way I see it is, look at the Patriots. I've used this example 15 times, I swear, on the show. You couldn't name me 3 or 4 defensive players on that defense. Yeah. But in that first half against the AFC Championship, you couldn't have told me which defense led the league in sacks. Yeah.
Right.
That's my point. So it's a scheme.
You're right.
It's scheme.
And I think the combination of Spagnuolo and the combination of Brendan Daly, they're going to be able to build a rush plan. They're going to affect, like you guys said, affecting the quarterback. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily just sacks, but it's affecting the quarterback. You're going to get a little bit of productivity, a little bit of disruption from everyone, including the Honey Badger. He's going to come off. He's going to come from the nickel. So you're going to get a lot of creative pressures. You're going to get a well-developed pass rush plan that's going to help them affect the quarterback. And that's all you can ask for. They're not going to lead the league in sacks next year. And I think we all know that. They're probably going to be middle of the pack.
I think we're going to blitz a ton, though.
I think
there's going to be a lot of zone blitzing going on.
Stunts and twists up front too, like just a diverse group of pass rush, move. Like they're just going to have a wide plan.
He's actually going to mix it up, unlike Sutton.
Yeah,
right. Sutton is so predictable. He keeps his guys where they're at all times. He doesn't move anybody around. So
right.
For sure.
That's the biggest thing for me, man. Is you can have your opinion on who was truly at fault of who lost that game. For me, it's the lack of adjustment and awareness as a defensive coordinator. I know he's gone, so I don't want to bag on the old man anymore. But my point is, he had 5 opportunities, 5 seasons to really, actually 6, 6 seasons to make something happen. And he did not adjust. He had talent around him. When he came in here in 2013, that was a very talented defense. Yeah. And they were, I think they finished 7th that year. But my point is that it got progressively worse. He refused to adjust. You heard that in the locker room. And in my opinion, I think Patrick Mahomes had a lot to do with, because if let's be real here, he's the second most, Bink says this all the time, he's the second most important man in Arrowhead. Patrick Mahomes.
He might be the first, even though Andy's amazing.
Well, I'm talking about Clark Hunt. I'm talking about Clark because he's the owner. You know what I mean? Like, if he said, you know what, we're letting go of Patrick Mahomes, it is happening. It would be the worst decision of his life. But he has the ultimate power and ultimate say. But when it comes to actual personnel, Patty is the man. Yeah. And I think that he said, you know, we're not losing games like this. We're not going to lose I'm not going to go out here and have the ball when, you know, it's an opportunity for me to, you know, elevate my legacy and to put us into the Super Bowl my first year. So I feel good. I feel really good about this. But unfortunately, and we're going to continue on this in the next segment, unfortunately, this offseason hasn't exactly been all about positive things.
Right.
You would think being in the AFC Championship, being this close,
it never is getting to the Super Bowl. City, though.
Yeah, it never is, and that's what we're going to talk about because we're all woe is me guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're all Kansas City guys, so we understand this all too well.
Right. So join us in this pity party.
So we're going to get back to that, guys. We're going to talk a little bit about Tyreek Hill's situation. What we know, what we don't know, where the hell we even stand in all of this, what we believe. And we're going to touch on Chris Jones's potential contract as well. How serious are the Chiefs taking his value, what they see for him as a long-term option? And we'll get back to that after this. KC Hardgoods is the brainchild of local Kansas City degenerate Scott Reinerson. Born from a passion of old materials and custom designs, specializing in reclaimed wood, burned art and signs, and upcycled leather wallets and accessories. Follow KC Hardgoods on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Located in the historic Westport District, Modern Man Supply Company is your Kansas City's new home for men's retail. From apparel to pomade and home goods to beard care, they offer a wide range of men's products from independent companies from around the world. Follow them at Modern Man Supply Company on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Wasteland Society, an apparel brand inspired by the underground, the weird, the youth, post-punk, 80s and 90s pop culture, and the idea of living life on the opposite end of the spectrum to the fullest. Hand-printed in Kansas City using an eco-friendly printing process on sweatshop-free garments that are ethically made in the USA. Find them. We are Wasteland Society on Instagram. Back at it again on the Spoken Podcast for segment number 2, episode 10 here in the KC Beardco Studios. I'm here with my guys, Eddie Ortiz, Trevor Twidwell, and our guest in the Modern Man Supply Company guest seat, my dude from Arrowhead Pride, lead draft and film analyst, Kent Swanson. What's up, brother?
I like the seat.
I'm
digging the seat.
It's comforting.
Got a name for it and everything.
Man. Yeah, shout out to my guy Joshua Wilson, owner of Modern Man Supply Company, for sponsoring this. Great store out there in Westport. All the things that guys are into, when it comes to beard products, when it comes to hair products, when it comes to apparel. It's just a really nice place to go and hang out and have a beer too. So definitely go check them out at Modern Man Supply Company in Westport. I left it off right where I wanted it to, because I felt like this is obviously the biggest story, because like I said, obviously with all the hard work you guys have put into this draft, and I don't want to downplay that at all. That's why I wanted to start off with this.
You're good, buddy. It's all good. I've talked a lot of draft the last 4 months. So you're ready? We all right. We can talk about whatever you want. I'm good with whatever.
All right. Well, we're gonna start talking fishing. But
I got nothing.
So that's it. That's it. That's the end of the show, man. So obviously the biggest story of the entire offseason, there's no question about it. It's about the Tyreek Hill ordeal. Whether you believe he's guilty, whether you believe, that it's innocent until proven guilt, it does not matter where we stand. The point remains that this has been the biggest talking point of the offseason. In fact, I would go as far as to say that even if it was Patrick Mahomes' contract year, I think this story would be right up there with it, because of the fact that we know the value of Tyreek Hill. We know what he is to this team, but furthermore, it hits home for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of families have dealt with similar situations, whether we have the facts or not. And so tonight, we've touched on this many times. I was shook when the story initially came out last month.
It
seems
like
it. Yeah, no shit. But I'm still kind of at the exact same place I was before. And I asked Binkley the same question. I asked him, do you think he's going to be on the team week 1? He said, yes. I'm of that belief as well. But this isn't just a football thing, man. It goes into family situations, and I hate touching on those things.
Right.
So I try to be very sensitive about it. But KCTV5 just recently came out with their article, which was so well done. Shout out to them. That was some really good news, really good journalism. And I felt like I actually learned a little bit about the situation a little bit more. And it's funny because Eddie actually had a similar situation with his family without going into too many details. Eddie, because when everybody talks about removing a child from the home, they automatically think the worst. They think that something actually had to have happened.
Right.
Eddie, give us a little bit about what happened in your family situation.
I guess it's just kind of like protocol for them. Just in case that it's actually happening, it kind of prevents it from happening again. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're guilty. It just means that the child will be in safe hands in the meantime.
It's not criminal court. It's family court.
Yes. Family court, yes.
People got to understand the difference.
Exactly.
Sure.
It's just to see if they can keep their son, pretty much.
Right.
That's what they're fighting for, So, but him not losing his kid, but his kid being taken away by child services. Yeah. It's nothing to be surprised about. I kind of expected it, knowing how they go about handling this thing. So, I mean, it's really no news to me. It's more like, okay, so what's next? Like, what's the real news?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, what's the real news? What can I get from?
Yeah, for us,
from something we already knew.
Being left in the dark on like what they're checking in on, like what did something actually happen to the kid? Like we're so left in the dark on what actually happened.
The way the Kansas City Star handled this situation was just not the right way. Like they just released this story just to have a story, and I believe that kind of like that's what made this national news because of how they worded it and how things were said.
Well, let's be honest, because of the fact that, and we talked about this before the show even started, before you got here, Kent, that we said that, and this is my personal belief, that if it wasn't because of his past, I don't think this situation would be nearly enough. And I know we've been saying a lot. I want to get your thoughts on this, but I don't think this situation would be as high. I definitely think it would be a story.
Sure.
He's a star, yeah.
It's because of his past that I think this is more of what it is than it should probably be. But I want to get your thoughts on this. Let us know what you think. What is your thoughts on this entire Tyreek Hill situation?
Yeah, I was thinking about just what you just said. First off, like I think in general, the fact that the child was removed, I think is in a lot of ways a good thing because this whole thing has been magnified. But I mean, you talk about the realities of the world. You talk about, some of these things just to make sure that kids are safe is what's most important anyway. And I think about the Tyreek Hill situation. I think about the Robert Kraft situation. It kind of brought stuff to light about the realities of this world. And Kareem Hunt, and you talk about things with, like sex trafficking and child abuse and broken families. You think about all that stuff at the same time, like, yeah, this is being brought to light, but like, this is a reality that we don't often think enough about or ponder. So just saying that off the top, making sure kids are okay.
I think that's the number
is
one
the high priority.
Yep.
Now with this whole Tyreek Hill situation, I do agree. If he didn't have his past, the story might have been a little different or covered a little bit different and all that stuff. I think it probably would have been brought to the attention, or maybe there's just that preconceived notion has started this process along. Someone got reported because they know the tendencies or what has happened in the past. Like that might be part of this too. But I think that is kind of the realities of when you take a risk on a guy like Tyreek Hill when he's first drafted. These are the things that happen. These are the things that follow with him, whether or not what I don't mean by he did this, but the coverage of it, the perception of it, the entire thing, the media is going to be paying attention to these kind of things. So I think this is kind of a byproduct of, the realities that he's going to have to face. And it might, a lot of people talked about how his past, he got to go play in the National Football League, right? And people thought he shouldn't have, and didn't want to give him a second chance, and didn't think he was going to. He wasn't getting punished enough. Well, he might be now.
Yeah.
Whether or not this happened, it could completely destroy his family, and it might destroy his opportunities in the National Football League. I've tried to kind of stay mostly away from my opinions on what I think will happen for the most part. Coverage and all that stuff. I've tried to stay mostly away from that. But I think what you're seeing is the ramifications of this entire saga since he was selected. I think a lot of this stuff is, rightly or wrongly, it is going to follow him. And frankly, it probably should follow him.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
I hope this isn't true. I hope there's nothing stemming from this. I hope that family is restored. You know, Tyreek Hill was trending to be a phenomenal story.
Yeah.
You know,
he was getting engaged, you know, he was doing the right thing,
I
taking
was
the right steps.
I was really proud of what you saw from him.
Yeah.
His growth, him
on field and off.
That exactly. Yeah. It was so exciting. And you know, this whole thing is following him. We'll see what happens with it. But personally, for the sake of a family, for the sake of this whole thing, I hope it's not true beyond just the football stuff. However, there are big decisions to make about this with the football team. It affects everything.
And that's why I'm of the belief that he will be on the team this season. Now, what goes on after this season, that's the question. You know, are the Chiefs really going to give him a long-term deal? I think the Chiefs are in a really tough situation, and I don't often defend the brass. I often defend the player. But in this particular situation, I actually am going to defend the Chiefs because I think they're handling it really well. I think that they're allowing it to play itself out. They're not, jumping out ahead. They're not making any rash decisions, and that, quite frankly, is just the way they do things. They're a very level-headed organization.
Sure.
And I'm gonna jump back to what you just said because I actually agree with everything you just said. Because when they drafted Tyreek Hill, I immediately heard all the stories, and I heard all the negativity and obviously I had my suspicions. I'm like, man, well, I hope that, and I was just thinking this dude was going to be a special teamer. Fifth round.
No one thought he was going to be what he was.
So fifth round pick. Yeah, exactly. He was a running back converted to wide receiver. Like, we don't know what this guy was capable of. And all of a sudden he just blew up on the spot. He blew up on the spot.
Yeah.
So had a very Antonio Brown-esque arriving, like you don't expect him. But it does break my heart, man, because even if it isn't true, like if he has really no attachment to it at all, it really sucks because I do believe there was some truth about that big time deal he was supposed to be getting.
Sure.
I don't know if that was from his camp or if it was actually the Chiefs really thinking about paying him $100 million.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I was anticipating it as a fan because I felt like he earned it.
Yeah.
And it really sucks that we're now sitting here going, he might not be on this team now. Like we went from him making more money than OBJ to now, oh shit, we might not have him this season. Yeah. So that's
everything's
the
up in the air now.
Right.
It's so frustrating.
It's a cloud looming over the draft, over free agency, over the season. I mean,
and what they're building upon.
What they're building.
You're talking about the most successful season the Chiefs have had in decades, man. Yeah. And it's so disappointing that instead of us sitting here right now going, hey man, look, the schedule, the health of this guy, the development of this guy, like we could be in the Super Bowl. Like,
Patrick LeVon Mahomes.
You know what I'm saying? Your boy, friend of the show. No, but like that I wish that was the topic of discussion here. Instead, I feel like we have to almost be like New York media style where we're talking about all the negative things, but we can't help it because this is such a humongous story.
It's not going to happen, but I want to know. I wish we could get to the bottom of it before the draft.
Right. I know that's not a reality. Yeah.
But it just sucks because that changes our whole mindset going into the draft because we don't know if we should take a stud wide receiver.
Right.
Granted, there's a great wide receiver class coming in next year.
It's a bonkers wide receiver class next year.
We could totally just pass on this wide receiver class this year and be fine. We still got Sammy Watkins. We got some guys. We can maybe bring in another veteran, a Dontrell Inman or somebody along the lines of that. But man, it's frustrating because I know we're not going to know anything.
There is something though that doesn't have to loom over the offseason for us, and that is about the best or maybe the most valuable defensive player on this team, and that is Chris Jones. I'm going to get out ahead and just say it right now, Kent. I think it's common sense. You have to pay this guy his money.
Yeah.
He's too far valuable. He's not even 25 yet. Yeah. He's never missed a game in his career. He's been productive beyond productive. He is a fan favorite. It just goes across the board. This guy needs to get paid. I understand the risk. I understand the fact that there you can make a million different excuses, but the point remains. This guy is a central focal point of what this defense will or won't be next season.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be real here. So I don't even think, and we talked about this last week because I was getting so angry and I was hearing people in media talking about, well, maybe they shouldn't have, they shouldn't pay him the $20 million a year that he's going to probably get. And I'm sitting here going, what legitimate reason is there that outweighs the actual common sense side of things?
Yeah.
You can talk yourself out of anything. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
I can talk myself out of having a good beer after a long day. Is that what I want to do? Nope. Because it's common sense. I want that beer. So my point is with Chris Jones, I don't know. I really don't know your thoughts on him.
Yeah.
But my thought is if this defense is actually going to be better next season, it's only common sense that you show him the loyalty that he deserves because he's given it back, man.
Right.
He's shown this franchise he wants to be in Kansas City, and he's been so productive.
Well, we've already cleaned house too. We can't afford to give it. We've already given up all of our other big names. We can't afford to just completely.
You know what I'm saying?
Another guy.
Yeah. Like you said, you don't even know what the talent level is going to be this year.
We can't afford that.
What are we talking about when it comes to not locking up the guy you know is what he's capable
He wants
of?
to be here too.
So what's your thoughts on this, man?
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts running through my head, actually. I mean, first off, imagine if Chris Jones got hurt this year. What does this defense look like?
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Imagine how bad we'd be last year.
Dude, I just peed a little.
Imagine how bad we'd be last year if we didn't have him.
I mean, yeah, no, for sure.
Games in the sack. I mean,
that dude. I mean, that guy is the focal point of this defense. You found dudes on the edge like Okafor and Agba and you're trying to cobble together some pass rush productivity. You're hoping Breland Speaks takes the next step, but you have one dude that's done it. You have one dude that has played at a high level that's effective. They need this dude to make this thing work. And if they lost Chris Jones, it would be terrifying. Like I was looking at kind of like the sack totals for the Chiefs. Like this year they have guys that everybody that's on their roster right now from other teams from the Chiefs, like about 35 sacks in the building, but 15 and a half of them were Chris Jones.
Right.
So
he's our Aaron Donald, man. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
You don't let guys like that walk.
You're stuck in a weird spot, right? Because and this goes, I mean, Tyreek Hill, this whole thing looms over this situation too.
Absolutely.
They were going to pay Tyreek Hill. I think they were going to see how Chris Jones did, if he could do it another year, if he responded well to Brendan Daly. Brendan Daly he's a dude, and he's going to get after you. You got to make sure that dynamic's going to work, okay? Because it's going to be a culture shock for the defensive line. I think because Coach Reed, Andy Reid's son's not going to be leading the room anymore.
Christ, no.
It's going to be a dude that came from New England that knows how to do it, that has been a part of an organization that has high standards for everyone in the building. It's going to be a culture shock, I think. So you got to see how that dynamic works. I think they wanted to pay Ty this year. I think they wanted to let Chris Jones prove it another year, see if that dynamic works, and then pay him next year.
I was all for that too, man.
But now,
frustrating.
But I get what. But it's do you go and do the Chris Jones deal this year? Do you just let this whole situation play out? I mean, there's a lot of dynamics here and a lot of decisions. These little decisions. I mean, if Chris Jones and Brendan Daly aren't a match made in heaven, what happens?
Yeah, and see, this is why I think it's common sense you pay him now, because of the fact, like I said, his age. You pay him right now, you get him on a 5-year deal. He won't even be 30 by the time that contract's up.
Yeah.
Second of all, he's never missed a game, like I said. If he had durability issues, I wouldn't be on board.
Like he said too, if him and Daly don't mesh.
Totally agree with that. My point is, I would choose the player over a coach any day. I'm just in my personal, you know what I mean? Like that's my personal opinion on that matter. The chemistry thing is very big. I agree, and I think they can make that work.
But I don't know if Andy Reid would. I don't know if a coaching staff would, because they want to try to create. They create this culture. Sure. They're trying to build a culture, and they're starting that culture from scratch on defense. Yeah. Do you want a hungry Chris Jones? And these are why these dudes are paid a lot of money to make these decisions, because these are, I mean, on their face, like, pay Chris Jones, take care of him, but at the same time, like, you got to make sure that dude's motivated.
Yeah.
You got to keep that carrot in front of, like, some guys need the carrot,
and that's my point.
Some guys need the carrot.
That's my point though about him, because of the fact that he wasn't on a contract year last year,
right?
And that defense was 31st in the NFL, and he gave it his all. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that carrot is still very much in front of him.
But he was eligible for an extension
this year. I get
so
that.
You could extend him right now.
Yes.
So there is a carrot there still.
That's a fair point.
It's not a dire straits carrot, but it's still out there.
The thing is also is that you look at most successful, like great all-time defensive linemen, like I think Chris Jones can be. They all became what they were around 24, 25 years old.
Oh, sure.
So that's my point. Like no one's regretting paying Aaron Donald. Now, Aaron Donald is better than Chris Jones, but it's like 1A, 1B in a lot of areas. He's not far off from him. Aaron Donald is better. But my point is that you cannot name me a list of guys right now that you would sign at those positions over Chris Jones. And you couldn't take two breaths by saying other names. Like it is Aaron Donald and then Chris Jones, in my opinion. It's right there. And again, I think also, and this might be a little selfish as a Chiefs fan, I think they need some good PR right now. I think if they said, hey, we just signed Chris Jones to a 5 years, $90 million, whatever the case would be.
60, I think it'd be more than that.
Oh, it's going to be 117 according to Spot Trade. 117 million.
I think Tyreek Hill screwed himself. I don't think he's getting the money.
No, of course not.
That changes everything.
20 million a year you give to Chris Jones. I know the fans, there's the typical, oh my God, what are they going to do with the salary cap? Like, there's going to be those fans, but there's also going to be almost like a distraction. You know what I mean? For the team and for the fan base, where they can start talking about something else other than the negativity.
He's a pillar of this team. You don't get rid of guys that are pillar pieces that hold this team up.
And maybe I'm just too optimistic.
No.
But I really believe Chris Jones is going to stay hungry. There's something about his charisma that isn't fake, that isn't driven just by money. It's clearly driven by money to some form of everyone is, but I think it's because he loves football and he loves doing what he's doing. Like, he loves being that guy. I went to 7 Chiefs games last year. That's the most I've been in probably 20 years. Okay. And I saw him constantly getting the crowd involved. Constantly, even when they were giving him 500 yards in a game, that's 34-37. He's still throwing them arms up, dude.
Marcus Peters was the same way.
Yeah, you know. So my point is, I want to keep those kind of guys.
Sure,
because
I love Chris Jones.
Yes.
My thing is too. Now that he has Tyrann Mathieu, them two being a duo now, being two guys that are hyped, very smart guys. I think they're gonna team up so well, and I just don't want to. I mean, if we want to let him play out this year and see if he can, prove it again. I'm not against that either, but me personally, I would lock him up, man.
And I will add to all this. I think, you make a really strong case for why Chris Jones should be extended this year. And so I think you just kind of got to look through the rest of this offseason and say, if you start hearing buzz about that, if you hear that they're working on a deal, a lot of these questions and a lot of these things we're talking about have been answered, right? Because on its face, Chris Jones, you do it yesterday, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to read between the lines, and me and Craig, and this is stuff we look through all this stuff because we got to kind of think, you got to try to contextualize everything, right? Why have we not heard? Why were they prioritizing Tyreek Hill over Chris Jones?
But then we heard the news that they were working on a deal with him. What was 3 weeks ago or something?
Well, So when did that start?
Leakage.
I don't know if I've heard a ton concretely to say that they're working with Chris Jones, but. You kind of just got to read between some lines. Their reasoning might be some of that intangible stuff that we aren't really privy to, right? Maybe and these are just speculations, but like, if you don't hear about them talking about a Chris Jones extension this year and they want to keep him hungry, then there's a reason they want to keep him hungry, right? Yeah. I think that's what you kind of just got to. I've been doing this enough. I haven't been doing this for too long. It's only been a couple of years, but to know, you gotta take everything. You look on its face and then ask if it makes sense. And so if it doesn't 100% make sense, there's something underlying there, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's just kind of my thing. I let them tell me on some things. I do, believe it or not. I know there's been some very disruptive changes that this organization's made, moving on from Marcus Peters and stuff like that. They've made some big moves in the last 2 years. Nothing has been easy for this organization, right? They fired John Dorsey when no one thought they would fire John Dorsey. They traded Marcus Peters. They cut Jeremy Mack. All these big, drastic moves. I believe, and I actually have a lot of trust in that group for the decision-making process for the most part. Maybe not last year's draft, but
that aside,
those are the things I try to take. I try to try to contextualize everything, right? So that's just it's a weird spot for me. We'll see.
Yeah.
And I think what if they sign Chris Jones to an extension this year, all those questions that we're talking about have been answered. Absolutely. But if not, I mean, then there's probably something underneath there, right?
Yeah. And you said something that stuck out with me earlier when you said you think that there's a chance Brett Veach gets bored. Because let's be honest, it is Veach season. That's why I call it Veach season, dude.
I dig it.
Fleeced by Veach. That's what I always think. He's fleecing folks out there left and right when it comes to these trades. But speaking of trades, I want to touch on this really briefly, man. There's still guys out there I think the Chiefs really want. I think Frank Clark is a guy they've been wanting. Personally, I really wanted Patrick Peterson. I've wanted him since last season, but it sounds like he's going to stay.
Yeah.
Xavier Rhodes. There's guys out there. You and I talked months ago. I said I wanted Anthony Barr. I'm selfish when it comes to these guys because I feel like they can make immediate impact. What is your thoughts? Do you think that there is still one more big trade before the draft, or what do you think is going to happen, man?
There's a lot of Frank smoke. You know, I mean, you look at like there seems to be a lot that she's getting connected to them a lot. You hear about like some of the ways that the GM in Seattle, Schneider, I don't remember his first name, but
John Schneider.
John Schneider.
Yeah.
He's been talking, like he had some comments yesterday that were very vague about they love Frank Clark, but like it wasn't like a fervent commitment to him. There's a lot of smoke to that, Frank.
They might not have the money to pay him.
They're exactly
like, broke now.
Yeah, they just paid Russell $140 million.
I don't know how Russell's contract has hit the books, but like
it
does like
I got a deal.
That's why.
Seattle. And then he gets on his press conference. I'm very glad that we're here today. I just want to tell you guys, the Seattle Seahawks, we're going to take it to the next level, guys. Brothers, join in arms with me as we pray.
This dude is the most he's just the most up and down.
He's a complete goober, but he's a great quarterback. Let's just be honest.
That was his post-coital voice.
I asked Eddie this. I said, if we did not have Patty right now, you could not name the 2 to 3 quarterbacks you'd rather have than Russell Wilson.
I mean, he's up there.
Let's be honest, man. Let's be honest here. So, no, but I'm actually with you. Frank Clark was kind of like a distant dream for me.
Yeah.
Because I felt like this is the kind of guy that would be really, really good in this system. But I was like, man, there's other guys I'd rather have like before him, honestly. But as those guys kind of just fell to the wayside or signed other places, I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's get Frank Clark. And Bink, I've heard you guys talk about him. I've heard Bink talk about him. It makes so much sense, dude. Like, I think it needs to happen. I'm just be real.
He fits the length kind of fits that criteria.
He's nasty.
He's disruptive.
Yeah.
He's productive.
Yeah.
He, though, again, he comes with baggage.
Yeah, he does. Off-field stuff.
It's just like nothing is easy for this team.
His college, it was in his college days.
Right? It was in college.
Early.
It was in Michigan.
Yeah.
So probably kind of a similar timeline to Tyreek Hill with his age and stuff like that. And there was an incident with 2 kids there and a lady. And I mean, I don't know. From all indications, he's turned his life around and like he's made the most of his opportunity.
Right.
But I think even that kind of adds some elements there. From a football standpoint, though, this dude too much sense.
Yeah.
And you're paying if you have to pay him now. The Chris Jones conversation changes a little bit too.
Maybe that's what they're waiting on is to see if they can go and land a big shark, and then they didn't want to give Chris Jones a prove it year.
It all hinges on Tyreek right now. I guarantee you, it all hinges on Tyreek right now.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you to go back to that just for a second. I don't think Tyreek's ever going to get a big deal in Kansas City. I don't think it's either. Happen.
I don't believe that either. No. I think this is his last year in Kansas City.
And that really sucks to say.
It does suck for him. But I think the Chiefs are in one of the most unique situations, even more Kansas City than the past. Like this is a very Kansas City offseason where just like nothing is really set in stone. There's things all over the place on offense, on defense that they're just everything is up in the air. They lost out on Earl Thomas, so they had some of their salary cap designated for him. Like all their plans have just
at every position almost.
They've all been all over the place, and I don't think I don't think you can blame them for anything. They've done what they could. Right. They almost had Earl Thomas, twice.
Jesus Christ, I can't say it enough.
It's all over the place. Right. This draft is gonna answer a lot of questions underlying. A lot of the underlying questions that we have about this offseason. You want to just know.
Yeah.
I think this draft will tell you a lot about what they see, what they're confident in, what they're not confident in moving forward.
So I guess we're confident that they're not going to be trading back.
You just know they're not trading.
I'm not sure. Okay, let's just say this: all the edges are off the board. All the defensive ends are off the board.
That's what I'm saying. If we lose all the guys off the board, then we have first round talent.
I don't think they're trading up for a corner. Right. So I think they might just move back and get another pick. You could if you trade back 6 spots. You trade back if you trade back to 35, 6 spots.
Yeah,
you get that pick, and then you'll get another top 100 selection, like pick 104, roughly. I've done the math because I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
But you are?
Yeah, no, you couldn't tell, right? You couldn't tell, right? We're just obsessed with we watch 400 prospects so we can draft 6. So we're
the world needs nerds, bro.
Yeah,
the world needs nerds,
and we're out there, we're doing it. So
real quick though, Kent, when is if they do take an offensive player in this draft, what round would it be?
They're going to take an offensive player in the first 2 rounds.
Okay.
I don't know where, but they're going to help Patty somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know
tight end, that's for sure.
I would
love that.
They
12
got,
personnel. 12 personnel, baby.
They got some good tight ends in this class.
Yes.
I mean, I could see honestly, if you told me by the end that if they make 4 picks in the first 2 days, and you told me 2 were offense and 2 were defense, I'd believe you because there's good value at tight end in like that 3rd round range, 2nd round range.
At this point, we're just driving for need and best player on the board.
It kind of feels like it.
Doesn't it feel nice to finally like draft around a franchise quarterback? I'm just saying, like the
man.
thought of like, well, we don't have to build the team perfectly now because when it was with Alex Smith, whatever, if you liked him, you loved him, whatever. The point is that you always had to say, well, the team has to be perfect for you to win. Now it's like, dude, just give Patty a couple, this and that, make his defense like top 20 and they'll win the Super Bowl. Like that feels good to say, man. And you get
not used to this,
so,
and we're not used to this either. Like I'm not used to this whole experience.
It's
like
great.
Knowing you've got the quarterback position solved for the next 15 years. Like it's ridiculous.
I love it, man. So we're gonna come back for one more segment. I'm kind of putting Ken on the spot on this one because we do this every week. It's called Hold This L. I don't know if Kent's got anybody, but if not, we'll talk during the break and maybe he can conjure one up. But that is our favorite segment of the week. We get to hand an L out to somebody in the world of sports that we think is most deserving. So when we get back from our break, we're gonna hand out some L's. We'll get back to that after this. KC Hemp Company, your most trusted CBD provider in Kansas City, shipping nationwide. Ancient plant for a new age health. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at KC Hemp Co.
Midcoast Modern is a Kansas City focus on modern, handmade, and small brands. A resource for design-centric home goods, apparel, jewelry, artwork, and limited edition gifts. We support makers, artists from the Midcoast, and bring in goods from makers, artists around the U.S. to offer a unique selection.
Commandeer is Kansas City's alternative apparel brand. They make unique Kansas City-themed clothing and accessories with a countercultural appeal. Find them online at commandeerbrand.com or follow them at Commandeer Brand on Instagram or Facebook.
It's time to hold this L.
I want you to do me a favor and hold this L.
Somebody's got to hold that L.
The who, the her.
I'm talking like caps lock L LL Cool J style.
Hold that L.
Good God, man. Hold this gigantic, veiny, pulsating L.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
You ignorant bastard.
That was great.
Oh, hold this L. Back at it again on the Spoken Podcast for the 3rd and final segment of the night. We are here in the KC Beardco Studios. I am your host, Lance Twidwell. Here with my guys, Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
I get so used to you doing that, bro. Like you gotta keep a rhythm here, damn it. And Trevor Twidwell, my brother.
What's up, everybody?
There it is. Okay, somebody help me out here.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Thanks, Eddie. And Eddie's like staring right into my soul, like, oh shit, oh yeah, yo. We are here with our guy.
The nipple, sorry.
We're here with our guy from Arrowhead Pride, lead draft and film analyst, as I've said in the last 2 segments, Kent Swanson. We really thank him for being out here tonight, and I'm really glad he decided to stick around for one more segment because, like I said, this is our favorite segment of the night because it's just fun. We get to talk about who is deserving of the L of the week, and it does not matter what sport, which athlete. You got somebody, give it to us. So I'm going to start with my guy, Trev, real quick. We're going to go across the table. Trev, who is holding the L this week?
Mine goes to Max Kellerman. I don't know if you guys saw it on his show, or was it like earlier this week?
On First Take?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see it.
Well, I think it was on Monday, I believe. He was trying to cover a fart with a cough.
Yes, I did see that. Dude, it's true.
What?
It's true. That's not edited. I've heard it. I've heard it. It's literally like it's just like that, bro.
Max Kellerman, but yeah.
Just like it, bro.
Okay, he was saying something, and then he went to Stephen A. Stephen A. started, he started doing his thing. And then Max Kellerman was like, he was sitting there, and then he said something, he goes,
just straight up, bro.
Like, clear as day. And then
just like that.
The reason I'm giving him his L is not just because that's not really an L, that's just pure comedy. He went on the Dan Le Batard. Well, Dan Le Batard had him on his show, which is a great show. He had him come on, and he put him on the spot and asked him if he farted, and he straight up denied it. And they kept playing the audio over and over and over. And you can hear it clear as day. And he's like, okay, who made the noise then? Who made the noise? And it's just that's why I'm giving him the L, because he went up, and it's so obvious. He was so trying because it's either he was trying to cover it with the cough because he knows,
or he coughed and he
like
farted.
The Family Guy episode where
he's no, yeah.
So it was either him trying to cover it with the cough, or he coughed so hard that it just shot out.
Either way, he had to check his shorts after the segment was over.
Well, it was hilarious, man. And it's all over YouTube. Everyone's talking about it. So
I gotta watch this.
Yeah,
for me, I'm surprised you guys didn't know about that. That was an easy one for me. It was like a layup for me with that one. So yeah. So Max Kellerman,
hold this L. Eddie Ortiz, give us the L, man.
Oh man, this week wasn't an easy week. I had a couple hold this L candidates, but I couldn't give it to MLS again. I already did that once. I can't do it again. I'm gonna give it to Pep Guardiola. He is the head coach for Manchester City in the Premier League. Reason I'm giving him the L is because he has not been able to win or qualified to the semifinals in the Champions League in 8 straight years since he last had Messi. So it only proves that without the best players, he just can't make it happen. He is a great coach, and he has Champions Leagues, La Liga trophies, he has Bundesliga trophies, he has Premier League trophies, but he just can't win without Messi, man. There's just something about Messi that he just can't make it happen.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah, he'll make anybody look good.
Gonna give it to Pep Guardiola. So Pep Guardiola,
hold this L. All right, Kent Swanson.
I could listen to you say that. Say that name one more time.
Pep Guardiola.
I need
a ringtone notification.
Suavemente. So Kent, on the fly, brother, who is it?
Okay, so I don't even know if we should be handing the L to the Raiders scouting staff or just John Gruden.
He did it! You broke it! You did it! I knew episode 10, Kent Swanson comes on and he takes my L. Wait a freaking! I knew it!
Yeah!
I knew it, Kent Swanson.
Yes!
Kent freaking Swanson broke the streak.
Is that what you thought I was gonna get?
Yes! I knew it.
This is great.
You did it, man.
It's great.
So go ahead and give us what you got, and we're just gonna say it together, man. Go.
Okay, so John Gruden and Mike Mayock basically fired their entire scouting staff. I don't know if the scouting staff should be catching the L or John Gruden and Mike Mayock should be for embarrassing themselves in front of the National Football League, but that whole situation is a dumpster fire. It is the most beautiful thing.
Yes.
You want to know the thing that is getting us all as Chiefs fans through this offseason? We could be the Raiders.
It can always be worse, bro. It can always be worse.
Absolutely.
In fact, how about this? I'm gonna audible. The entire city of Oakland.
Hold this L.
Thank you.
Dude, I knew there was something I knew the whole week. I'm like, I guarantee you this the week it ends. And my guy, Kent Swanson comes in here and just wrecks shit. That's great.
What a start.
Yes.
Him being the draft guy, the Mr. Wise guy, and all that. Oh my God, what a start for them.
The whole thing's a dumpster fire. It's beautiful.
It's like a slapstick comedy.
I'm over here just puzzled that actually just happened. Like, I knew it. It literally felt like I saw the future. I'm like Bran Stark. I'm a green sea. Like I can see the future. You're the Night King, Kent. You're the fucking Night King.
You just threw your spear into Lance's heart.
Lance, now you got to come up with one, man.
Hell no. He took mine. I'm heartbroken, man. He took my freaking L.
So you always have
the only guy in here that has a name that starts with L got his L taken away. That's some bullshit, man. Some bullshit. Kent, I want to thank you, man, again, so much for being here.
No problem,
it's an absolute blast, and it goes without saying, you're always welcome to come on, man.
Sure, man.
I know you're a busy guy. You have your own family. You have your own stuff going on. For you to come on to our show, I cannot thank you enough, brother. It means a lot.
Happy to. It was fun.
Just a show of our gratitude, man. I wanted to give you, because I know you started growing the beard out, so I wanted to give you a bag of KC Beard Co. products.
Man.
Got some oil, some butter, and we got an actual T-shirt in there for you, too.
I will rock this.
Yeah, man. So,
appreciate it,
and if it's the wrong size, I can go grab you another one real quick. But like, I don't know if you're
extra small, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's a 7X.
It's a crop top.
It's a 7X.
Okay, I can fit into it. Maybe make a tent. Maybe fashion a
show
tent
some
out
cleave.
of
You know what I mean?
7X.
Get the cleave showing. So,
man, I appreciate.
Are you a
it.
large or you medium?
No, this is perfect.
All right,
this
cool.
is perfect, man.
Well, like I said, guys, this was a great show. I'm really glad that Kent came on, even though he did steal my L, and I'm going to be pretty upset about it for the rest of the night. But
what a way to episode 10.
The double digits.
10 episodes in. Go ahead.
I was about to give it to Dave Gettleman instead, but I just I audibled. So it was teetering. It it was teetering. I was gonna go another draft direction. I was like, you know what?
He's making it better.
I got to dunk on Gruden here.
That would be two for Gettleman because I gave Gettleman one. Episode 5.
Did you really?
Yeah,
I think the dude is a walking L.
Yeah, he is a walking L. Let's be honest here.
Absolutely.
So
there's 2 L's in Gettleman.
When you get an opportunity to dunk on John Gruden, like you said, you have to do it.
Take advantage of that, goddammit.
God damn it, I tell you what, this fucking quarterback, Patrick
All my
Mahomes,
scales are fucking
he's going to be putting it in my butt for the next 12 years. God damn it.
I'm sorry. I'm still mad. Okay, just give me a break here.
That was a pretty good impression, though. Like both of you guys definitely stand in front of the mirror. You guys go to like a workshop on Tuesdays to work through that.
Why you don't need Frank Caliendo when you got the Twidwells, bro. You know what I'm saying? Shit.
Man.
So this was a blast, dude. Seriously, whenever you want to come back on, if you got time, it would mean so much to us. But in the meantime, guys, please go give them your information, how they can find you on Twitter, where they can find the KC Draft Guide. Give them everything real quick, man.
Yeah, find me on Twitter at Kent_Swanson. You can read all of our stuff at Arrowhead Pride. I work with a phenomenal team. Like all this stuff, the draft guide, none of this is possible without our squad, and I'm so proud to be a part of that group. You can go to gum.co/KC Draft to purchase the guide. And I'll tell you what, let's do this. I'm calling an audible. Promo code Twidwell. We will give you the guide for $6.99. So we'll just take a discount. If you guys use that promo code, you can get it for $6.99.
And just for good measure, because I know everyone spells our name wrong, it is TWID.
There's a W in there.
TWIDWELL. It's
couple
not
L's
Tidwell.
in there, huh?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. And you stole one of them. So
I got you.
I got a few left. But you still took not Rod Tidwell from Jerry Maguire. It's Twidwell. So promo code Twidwell. So Kent, again, dude, I cannot thank you enough. Guys, go check out their work. Go follow Ken on Twitter. He's a great follow, great guy, and we're really lucky to have him here in Kansas City covering our team that we all love the most. So in that, we, like I said, we out here in the KC Beardco Studios for Eddie Ortiz, for Trevor Twidwell, for Arrowhead Pride's Kent Swanson. I am Lance Twidwell, and I want to thank you so much for listening to our show. But until next week, we're out of this bitch.
See you guys.
See ya.
We're gonna get out of this bitch. Thank you so much for listening, guys.
See ya.
You are tuned into The Spoke.
I might actually stick around for a little bit.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.